Hey guys, well, welcome back to the Home Turf. Hopefully you're doing good and having a great day. I love you all, and I'm so glad you could join me. Guys, I have a question for you. Why is it that we hate our children? Or rather, why is it that we've been made to hate our children? And I have one pretty solid theory why that I don't really believe is a theory, but true. And, I really have been wanting to talk about this for a while now, but was kind of driven to talk about it definitely today. Um, I saw a video from Bo Refik recently. Pretty sure it was from today, either that or yesterday. It was about this guy who left the 9 to 5 job, started his own business, and did what he was doing there. But he didn't have any kids. He didn't have a wife or anything like that. And he was starting to question his manhood. And children naturally came up in the conversation. And so what Bo was talking about was that you know uh, there's been a psyop, and I definitely agree with that. A lot of things that I think of when I think of psyop as it relates to children is obviously we know with the feminist movement there was a push for sexual liberation when it came to women actively wanting to choose the men that they decide to have children with, and I think that's awesome. Um, but obviously, that went too far, right? And it was a lot of the conditioning, especially at that time, because there were man haters well before that point, but they started to become more uh, very well known at that time, specifically because the technology was improving, so vastly. Um, but so when they went too far, right, is when they were convincing women to start hating children because they began to condition women to prioritize a career and independence rather than dependence and uh, duty to the family, right? To bring women into the public sphere, uh, all in an effort to uh, make them taxable and then also make them good puppets. Um, and so you have that, and then at the same time, you also have this conditioning for men as well, and men becoming weak, right? Whereas the conditioning was love, right? Love over everything else, and be more sensitive, be more sensitive, be more sensitive, right? So pretty much, where it comes into play with kids is that as the conditioning machine kept, turning, um, people began to really feel the pain, right, of the division between the sexes, and the political atmosphere, of course, in late 90s, early 2000s, and now, especially today. And then there's also the economic factor to it. A lot of people just can't feed themselves, let, let alone a family. And so it makes it really hard to be able to afford children. I think that's the majority of the problem, is that people just can't afford children. But there's also an underlying issue that we see children as a burden because of that unaffordability, especially with women, but the unaffordability with different in different aspects. Obviously, since the women carry the children, right, they have to take time away from work, and since women have been prioritized, or women have been conditioned to prioritize career, they see children as a burden because of the financial aspect of it, right? But also because of the life aspect of it. They're essentially, putting their lives on hold, you know, because they're having the children. And and then you also have um, the men's perspective of things when it comes to having children because of hookup culture, right? We have, oh, dude, I mean, just this massive hedonistic culture that prioritizes sexual relations over long term committed relationships. And then, wonder why we have to, bear the consequences of our actions. And when we live in such a hedonistic society, we also see children as a burden. That's why Planned It's exactly why Planned Parenthood is so popular these days. It's because we prioritize. Well, it's not that we just prioritize careers or hookup culture. It's that we prioritize ourselves over everyone else. That is the biggest issue, right? Um, we don't care about anyone else anymore. We have no duty. We have no honor, no responsibility, no accountability, well, oh, I already said responsibility, right? But we have we have we have no sensibility for family anymore, no morals or values, right? And say what you want about religion, but and religion has its own problems, but also at the same time, religion did harness uh, a protective bubble for family units, right, to make the next generation stronger. Um, Without that, obviously, leads to a slew of issues, such as what we're seeing today, right? And so that's why that's why we have been made. Well, no, I'm sorry. That's why we hate our children. But rather, why is it that we've been made to hate our children? And I look at eugenics. It goes back to eugenics, I believe, right? Because again, we find ourselves in a social class war. Bo says the same thing all the time, right? And since since we have conjured the idea of status, right, uh, within our own species, we began to look down on each other because of that status, right? And it's no different today. Actually, it's even more so today because the elites of society are using underhanded tactics to ensure that we don't reproduce, right? Which is why the birth rate is plummeting. It's become a luxury these days to even afford a home, right? And much less getting married and have a family. uh, and so where eugenics comes into play, obviously it was a movement of eliminating the undesirables, right? The mentally handicapped, the black community was a huge target of that, um, and still is a huge target because you know look at Planned Parenthood right now, as of today. I mean, holy holy fuck. um you have millions and millions of babies that are being aborted every single year. um and it's not because of grape, it's not because of implest. um that at the last statistics that I looked at was less than 1%, right? And then there's this other category, which I do believe is inconvenience. um so yeah. But anyways, where does that come into eugenics, right? So a very prominent feminist, Margaret Sanger, um, she is the co-founder um, of Planned Parenthood. But what a lot of people don't know is that she was also a very prominent eugenicist. She was a very racist woman, and there was a there was an agenda, right, to go after the black community through helping women, right? And so, but it wasn't just the black community. You have to understand, it was also, right, the poor. The poor was among that list as well. So it was the mentally handicapped, it was the black community, and it was also the poor, right? Because these three groups of people are deemed as lesser than, right? For whatever reason, I think is incredibly, I mean, evil, of course, but um, you look at what's going on today, right? Um, the fact that you know the middle class was eliminated. One of the biggest benefits that the Industrial Revolution brought to America was the middle class, right? And people, were leaving poverty. They began to work in these factories. Well, I mean, obviously after the unions began to form and stuff like that, but um, as labor laws, were signed or excuse me, as labor laws were signed in, and the conditions started to really improve. People started working more and more and more and more. Right, the wages went up, or at least they were able to compensate for the cost of living. And so that really helped out the average American. Um, But, COVID really took that away. And now we find ourselves in the same situation that we were in the early 1900s. Conditions are terrible. Um, Companies have no loyalty, and they would much rather pay, illegal immigrants very, very, very low wages just to save their bottom line than to pay you, a wage that you deserve to take care of not just yourself, but also your family, right? But how are you supposed to have a family now because you don't have a job? How are you supposed to have a family because the women hate you? How are you supposed to have a family when you hate the women, right? So you see what's going on here. When you start asking the real questions, it's when you start having the real conversations. And this is what happens on the channel here. We have real conversations because listen, guys, if we don't start waking up to the real issues, uh, not just our nation, but Western civilization as a whole, it's already in decline. But if it keeps going, especially with how accelerated it is now, we're due for a collapse, I would imagine, within the next 5 years, especially with how we are sticking our noses, right? Or I should say, where the government is sticking its nose where it doesn't belong. Um, because the funny thing about that, too, is that when we eventually get involved with a war, or we instigate a war and we're brought into it, or outright just declare war and start a war, um, it's not going to be the elites of society that go. No, 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 no. It's going to be the poor that goes. Why? Well, because they don't have any family. They don't have any family. They're depressed. They're anxious. Right? They're desperate to get out of their living situation. And what better way to do that than to enlist? And here you are fighting someone else's war that you have no business being in, all for what? Because you were squeezed so thin that that was your only option. I'm definitely thinking the only way people are ever going to be able to afford a family is if they end up joining the military. And listen, AI is another situation as well, right? When it comes to jobs specifically, AI is really going to, I'm telling you, it's really going to take storm within the next 5 years. It's going to take storm. Believe you me, it's going to take storm. Like I said, the research I did a while ago, 40% of engineers will be replaced by AI. They're already doing it. They're already using AI to find problems and fix those problems when it comes to structural integrity. They're running, they're having the AI run tests for them right? So it's not going to be too long now that they will start replacing engineers outright. Um, and 40% of those engineers are said to be replaced within the next 5 to 10 years. So it's going to be blue collar jobs that are going to be replaced, that are going to be replacing, or I'm sorry, it's blue collar jobs that are going to be lost as well. It's not just going to be call center jobs, right? It's not just going to be, um, I should just say office and desk jobs that people are going to lose, mainly women. Um, so what do you have, right? You have a bunch of people who are out of jobs and who are going to starve because they can't pay, right, either the mortgage, rent, or for food. And then you're going to have more and more people going to food banks. Then you're going to have more and more people fighting over food because then they're going to get overwhelmed with just a sheer amount of people, right? And then you're going to have a dwindling down of people who have resources to survive. This is the sheer chaos that is going to happen and going to happen very soon because of the greediness of the upper class. You understand, this is very, very dire. We cannot sit here and just bury our heads in the sand. We have to wake up and realize what the true issues are. And then this is exactly, I went off on a long fucking tangent. Um, but it all goes back to children, because at the end of the day, we won't have any children. Well, not the lower class, not the middle class or what's left of it, and not the poor. Again, they're either going to be conscripted because of a draft, which I also see happening, or they're going to voluntarily enlist, and so they're not going to be, having children. They're also going to conscript women as well. They've been pushing for that for quite a few years now. Definitely during Biden's term, if I remember correctly. Um, which is kind of funny because more women are leaning left and Democrat wise, but it was the Democrats that was pushing for women to enter service. But I just think that that's funny. Anyways, so you have all of these people that are desperate enough to take any opportunity that they can to get out of their living situation, um, perhaps to just even uh, be able to afford themselves, but eventually children, because most of us want children. I want children, right? As someone who has had to step up and raise my little sister, essentially, changing her diapers and stuff like that. I've developed a love for children, right? Um, and I don't, I don't see myself as a father figure. Obviously, I see myself as a big brother because I'm a big brother. But um, I do want children someday, right? I want a healthy, beautiful family that I'm leading and guiding and protecting and providing for. Um, but again, all of these different issues, right? I'm a lower class. I'm just a regular guy. I'm considered lower class, and I'm considered one of the undesirables, right? A disabled veteran, um, which I think is hilarious because the very people who would consider me undesirable have never faced any kind of adversity in their entire lives. Lived life with a silver spoon in their mouth, and as always, leached off of society. But I'm not going to go in there. Words from a pissed off veteran. um, but or at least the people who look down on others because of their status. Um, I think is someone that is definitely insufferable and someone that's going to drive society into the ground, because those people are the ones who lobby, and those people are the ones who buy the politicians. And guess what? The politicians are only considering their interest, not yours. Money talks. Money always talks. It's always resources with humanity. Always resources. That's just how it is. We live for resources, we die for resources, unfortunately, but it is the way that it is. And when you don't have resources, you don't have a family, you don't have children. But there's a lot more that goes into it because of the complex nature that is humanity, right? Um, and so, uh, again, I definitely think it's eugenics that has really wormed its way into um, the upper class. I really do. I really do. It's just not talked about a lot, as much at all, really. I don't hear anyone else talking about eugenics and how it's really invaded um, the government, how it's really invaded the upper class, because the upper class is most of the government. um, Now, of course, this is just speculation, but but you see the policies, the laws, you see how politicians are pushing, right, for division, right, not unification. And then you also see big corporations who are constantly taking advantage of the American people, who are outright wanting to pay for illegal immigrants instead of Americans. And so you look at everything that's going on, and you're like, they're just making sense now, right? And there's nothing being done to help the average American, or not much, anyways, to help with families. Nothing that's really making a difference. And so things are just going to keep getting worse, right? Um, uh, Less and less average Americans are going to have children, um, and until we find ourselves in a population crisis. Well, until that's if they don't replace the average Americans with um, illegal immigrants, as they were doing a few years ago. So um, there's that as well. We are slowly being replaced. We are. Um, so uh, what can be done about it is that we expose, right, these plans for what they are. We expose what's going on. We start asking the real questions. We start having the real conversations, aka my videos. Well, I mean, and others, of course, but um, but it's hard to get these videos out because of the shadow banning. YouTube doesn't really like you talking about the things that I talk about, and so it's just, and I know it is. I know it is because I see the stats. I see the stats. I was doing very well a while ago when it came to engagement and views and all that stuff, and now it's just it's hard for me to get 10 views for a video, and I don't think it's just the quality. So um, we're headed for hard times. We're headed for hard times, and so the next video I'm going to be talking about gear, because that's going to be important as well. The more desperate people are going to get, the more violent people are going to get, and you got to be ready. You have to be ready. So gear matters, and that's what I'm going to be covering. Um, so, but that's pretty much all that I can really. I'm sure that there are more things to talk about when it comes to children, but just the conditioning of the division, right? On so many different levels, right? Division of sex, division of politics, um, division of religion as well, just division of men and women in particular, and the economic factor of it as well. You know, uh, people see children as a burden and instead of a gift, right? But you have to see children as a gift because children ultimately are the ones that are going to take care of us when we become old, when we grow old. They are who replace us, right, to keep um, the country maintained, right? And so we must have children in order to make sure that our future is secured. Um, Without them, there is no future. And so, you know, that's why I was going, down the rabbit hole of, the upper class and eugenics and all that stuff, because, people really need to look into these things. They really do. Do your research. You will find out a lot of shit. You'll find out a lot of shit, and listen, I don't wish um, any ill will on anybody, but I do wish to expose the evil that is going on, right? And I'm not slandering anyone, right? I'm not doing any kind of bad. I'm not um you know um I'm not doing anything I'm not supposed to. So just using my First Amendment right, of course. So YouTube, don't strike me. um but yeah, follow the money, do your research, understand what's really going on. So let me know what you guys think. Um, why is it that we hate our children, or rather, why is it that we've been made to hate our children? So I'd be very curious to hear, what you guys are thinking, what you guys are seeing that's going on. So please let me know. I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. If you guys want me to talk about anything, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you out any way that I can. So thank you guys so much for all that you do. I hope to grow this family as fast and as big as possible, right? To overall figure this whole thing called life out and really change the culture here. We all know how toxic this culture is, and we all know that it needs to change. So help me change it. All right, guys. Please take care of yourselves, okay? Both mind and body. I got in the gym today. As hard as it was to get in the gym and work out, I still did my workout. I pushed and I pushed hard, especially with the mental health thing going on, right? Um, but I went in there and I did work. Okay, guys, and you gotta do some work too. Um, but it all starts here. Make sure this here, this here. Make sure that here is healthy. Okay, because it all starts there. So, um, and then as I was talking about getting in the gym, listen, you don't have to get in the gym, but get active of some kind. Okay, just take care of yourselves. Take care of each other too. If someone's having a rough time, lift them up. Okay. On this channel here, we give the right information, and we also stay truthful. Okay, but also we lift people up here as well. We're not going to badmouth. We're not going to slander. We're not going to do any kind of bullying or anything like that here. Okay, we come here to lift each other up and do right by people. All right. There's already so much negativity, hatred in the world. We got to spread some love and do the right thing. All right. We're supposed to love our countrymen, not hate us. Excuse me. We're supposed to love our countrymen, not hate each other. Okay. So, um, but I'll leave that there. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate every single one of you. I really do. I see you guys as family, and hopefully you see me as family. So, I wish you all a very, very great day. I love you all, and I'll talk to you soon.